Machiavellian thinking isn't evil. It's just honest about how the world actually works. You've heard the term Machiavellian. They use it like an insult, a label for the ruthless, the manipulative, the morally corrupt. But here's what they won't tell you. Machiavelli wasn't teaching evil. He was teaching survival. He was documenting what powerful people already knew and what weak people refused to accept. That morality is a tool, not a truth. That appearances matter more than reality. That the world belongs to those who understand human nature and use it strategically. While 96% of people stumble through life wondering why goodness doesn't protect them, the other 4% are operating from principles Machiavelli codified 500 years ago. Principles that still govern every boardroom, every negotiation, every power dynamic you'll ever encounter. This isn't about becoming a villain. It's about stopping being a victim. About seeing the game you've been losing without realizing you were even playing. In the next minutes, you'll learn 10 Machiavellian principles that separate the manipulated from the manipulators, the controlled from the controllers, the ones who wait for fairness from the ones who create inevitability. Most people will reject this. They'll call it cynical, dark, immoral. That's because accepting it means admitting they've been played their entire lives. But you're still here, which means some part of you already knows the truth. Let's make that knowledge operational. 1. The world doesn't run on morality. It runs on perception. You are taught that goodness wins, that fairness creates respect, that morality protects you from manipulation. But look around. The ones who rise aren't the kindest. They're the ones who control what others believe. Perception isn't truth. It's currency. And most people trade in counterfeit because they can't tell the difference. When you understand this, you stop wasting energy on being right. You invest it in being believed. Power doesn't live in what you are. It lives in what people think you are. The world rewards those who shape narratives, not those who speak truth. Morality is a social contract designed to keep the weak compliant. It teaches you to wait your turn, play fair, follow rules that others break behind closed doors. You think integrity will save you, but integrity without strategy is just predictable weakness. I've seen good people crushed because they believed the system would reward them. It won't. The system rewards those who understand its psychology and exploit it without hesitation. Fairness is a bedtime story for adults who refuse to wake up. Every interaction is a battlefield of perception. When someone sees you as naive, they disarm you with smiles and use your trust as a weapon. When they see you as dangerous, they hesitate. That hesitation is where control begins. You don't need to be cruel. You need to be unreadable. Let them guess. Let them wonder. The moment they think they've figured you out, you've already lost. Dominance isn't loud. It's the silence that makes others nervous. It's the calculated distance that forces them to come to you. Consider this. A CEO fires half his team without emotion. Shareholders applaud. A politician lies on national television. His approval rating climbs. A negotiator walks away from a deal. Suddenly, the other side calls back with better terms. None of this happens because of morality. It happens because perception was controlled. People respect what they fear losing. They follow what appears inevitable. If you reveal desperation, you teach them you're disposable. If you project calm certainty, they assume you hold cards they can't see. The game isn't about being ethical, it's about being strategic. Most live enslaved by the need to appear good. They sacrifice power for approval, strength for likability. They confuse being nice with being respected. But respect doesn't come from kindness. It comes from boundary enforcement and demonstrated consequence. When you prioritize perception over moral posturing, you become untouchable. People can't manipulate what they can't predict. They can't exploit what they can't guilt. You stop being a pawn in someone else's narrative and start writing your own. Emotion becomes a tool you wield, not a weakness they exploit. But to master perception, you must first destroy something most people worship. 2. Being good does not guarantee respect. You've been good your whole life, available, helpful, kind. And where did it get you? Ignored, overlooked, used. Because goodness without leverage is just free labor. People don't respect what costs them nothing. They respect what they fear losing. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach them your boundaries are negotiable. Every time you forgive without consequence, you train them that betrayal is survivable. Respect isn't earned through goodness. It's commanded through demonstration of what happens when you're crossed. The world doesn't bow to saints. It bows to those who understand power dynamics and refuse to be anyone's doormat. The nice guy finishes last because he telegraphs his moves. He seeks approval before acting. He needs validation to feel worthy. This desperation radiates. Others smell it like blood in water. They circle, they test, they take, and he gives because he thinks generosity builds loyalty. But loyalty without fear of loss is just convenience. I've watched countless people destroy themselves trying to be good enough. They believed if they just helped more, loved harder, sacrificed deeper, people would finally see their value. They never did. Because value isn't determined by how much you give. It's determined by how much it costs to lose you. Think about the people you respect most. Are they the ones who bend to every request? Or the ones who say no without explanation? The ones who chase your approval? Or the ones who seem indifferent to whether you stay or go? Respect gravitates towards scarcity. When you're always available, you become wallpaper. When you create distance, you become valuable. This isn't cruelty, it's psychology. The human mind assigns worth based on effort required to obtain something. Make yourself easy, and you'll be treated as disposable. Make yourself selective, and suddenly people compete for your attention. Your goodness becomes weakness the moment others realize it's unconditional. A boss who knows you'll never quit exploits you endlessly. A partner who knows you'll never leave stops trying. Friends who know you'll always forgive stop respecting your time. The pattern repeats because you've established yourself as the emotional safety net everyone can fall into without consequence. They've learned your boundaries are suggestions, not laws. And laws without enforcement are just words on paper. You don't need to become cruel, you need to become expensive. When disrespecting you costs something, respect appears like magic. Most people confuse being agreeable with being respectable. They think kindness creates influence. But influence requires unpredictability. It requires the understanding that you might actually walk away, that you might actually say no, that crossing you carries real consequence, not just disappointment. When you stop seeking approval and start demanding reciprocity, everything shifts. People who took you for granted suddenly notice your absence. Those who ignored you suddenly seek your opinion. Not because you became meaner, because you became selective. But goodness isn't the only illusion you've been sold. There's something even more dangerous people chase. 3. People don't want justice, they want advantage. Watch what people do when they think no one's looking. The moral crusader who preaches fairness. He'll bend rules the moment they inconvenience him. The friend who demands loyalty. She'll betray you if a better option appears. Everyone claims to want justice until justice threatens their position. Then suddenly they want exceptions. Special cases, context. Because people don't actually want a fair system. They want a system that favors them. Justice is the language of control. Advantage is the goal. And those who master this understand that morality is performative. A mask worn in public and discarded in private. You see it everywhere. The employee who complains about unfair treatment but would gladly take an unearned promotion. The activist demanding equality while hoarding resources. The politician championing the poor from a mansion. They speak the language of justice because it sounds noble. But watch their choices, follow their money, track their alliances. Advantage reveals itself in pattern, not in speech. People align with whatever narrative serves their survival. They'll sacrifice principles for proximity to power. They'll abandon beliefs for belonging. And they'll call it growth, evolution, pragmatism, anything but what it is. Manipulation dressed as morality. I learned this watching someone close get destroyed by their own fairness. They believed in merit, in doing the right thing, in trusting the process. Meanwhile, others networked, played politics, said what needed to be said. The fair ones stayed stuck. The strategic ones advanced, not because they were better, because they understood the game isn't about deserving, it's about positioning. Justice is what the powerless demand. Advantage is what the powerful secure. If you keep playing by rules that others only pretend to follow, you're not principled, you're naive. And naivety is expensive. Think about negotiations. Someone offers you fairness, a 50-50 split. Sounds reasonable, but look closer. They're framing fairness as equal division while hiding the fact they created the situation that requires division. They controlled the entry point. They set the terms. They defined what fair means. And now you're grateful for half of something they positioned themselves to control entirely. This is how advantage works. It doesn't announce itself. It hides behind the language of justice while quietly securing dominance. The skilled player never demands more. They structure the game so fair already favors them. Most people waste years fighting for justice in systems designed to prevent it. They believe if they're just good enough, smart enough, loyal enough, the world will reward them fairly. But the world doesn't run on merit. It runs on leverage, on perception, on who can make their advantage look like everyone's benefit. When you stop seeking justice and start securing position, you escape the trap. You stop waiting for fairness and start creating inevitability. People can debate what's right. They can't debate what's already done. And while they argue about morality, you'll be building something they can't touch. But position alone isn't enough. There's something more powerful most people never see. 4. Appearance of power matters. More than real power. Real power is quiet. It doesn't explain itself. But most people never obtain real power, so they settle for its appearance. And here's the secret. Appearance often achieves the same result. A bluff works if no one calls it. A reputation keeps enemies at bay without a single confrontation. The perception of strength prevents challenges that would reveal weakness. This is why dictators build massive statues, why corporations occupy towering buildings, Why insecure people wear expensive watches. They understand something fundamental. Humans respond to symbols faster than they verify substance. Control the symbol and you control the response. You don't need to be the strongest person in the room. You need to be perceived as the one no one wants to test. Think about it. A security camera might be fake, but it prevents theft. A guard dog might be friendly, but it stops intruders. The threat of consequence matters more than actual consequence, until someone challenges it. This is where most fail. They build appearance without foundation. Eventually, someone tests. And when the bluff gets called, the illusion shatters. Smart operators build just enough real power to back up their appearance. Not total dominance. Just enough that challenging them costs more than accepting their position. I've seen people with modest resources command rooms because they carried themselves like they owned everything in it. No hesitation, no seeking permission. They stated, they decided, they moved. Others assumed authority because confidence was displayed so absolutely. Meanwhile, I've watched genuinely capable people get ignored because they apologized for existing. They qualified every statement. They sought consensus before acting. Their competence was real, but their presentation screamed weakness. And people don't follow competence. They follow the appearance of certainty. Doubt is contagious. Conviction is magnetic. Even if that conviction is theatrical. Consider how this plays in everyday power dynamics. Two candidates for promotion. One is slightly more qualified, the other dresses better, speaks with more authority, networks more visibly. Who gets promoted? The one who looks the part. Because decision makers are human, they use shortcuts. Appearance is a shortcut to assumed competence. If you seem powerful, people treat you as powerful. That treatment generates actual power. The cycle reinforces itself. Your reputation opens doors your resume never could. Your presence creates opportunities your skills alone wouldn't attract. This isn't about deception. It's about understanding that humans are visual, emotional creatures who make snap judgments based on surface-level cues. But here's where it gets dangerous. When you master appearance, you can manipulate without anyone noticing. You can walk into negotiations already winning because you've shaped how others see you before words are exchanged. You can end conflicts without fighting because your reputation fights for you. The appearance of being untouchable makes you untouchable. People create their own barriers around you. They self-regulate their behavior based on what they believe you're capable of. And belief, not reality, drives human action. Master the symbol, and you master the response. But even perfect appearance crumbles if you make one critical mistake. 5. Predictability makes you easy to control. The moment someone can predict your reaction, you've handed them your strings. They know exactly what to say to make you angry, exactly what to offer to make you compliant, exactly how to play you. Predictability is the death of power. It's why casinos love gamblers with systems, why abusers target people with patterns, why manipulators study your routines. Once your behavior becomes formula, you become tool. Every consistent reaction you have is leverage against you. Every emotional button they can reliably press is control they possess. You think you're being authentic. You're being readable. And readable people get used. Watch how power players move. They're inconsistent. Sometimes generous, sometimes cold, sometimes responsive, sometimes ghost. Not because they're unstable, because unpredictability keeps others off balance. When people can't anticipate your response, they can't strategize against you. They approach carefully. They offer more. They respect your space because they don't know what violation might trigger. This is strategic variance. It's not randomness. It's calculated diversity of response that prevents pattern recognition. The wolf that attacks at dawn every day gets trapped. The one that strikes at random intervals stays free. I tested this deliberately in negotiations. Early on, I was consistent, polite, reasonable, accommodating when pushed. People learned. They'd make aggressive first offers knowing I'd meet them halfway. My predictability cost me thousands, so I changed. Sometimes I'd walk away immediately. Sometimes I'd counteroffer below their ask. Sometimes I'd agree instantly, no pattern. Suddenly they couldn't game me. They started with better offers, gave ground faster, treated negotiations seriously because they couldn't predict which version of me they'd encounter. My unpredictability became reputation. That reputation became leverage, and leverage became profit. Think about personal relationships. The partner who always forgives gets cheated on repeatedly. The friend who always shows up gets taken for granted. The employee who never complains gets exploited endlessly. Their consistency teaches others that consequences don't exist. But introduce variance, forgive once, walk away the next time, and watch behavior change. People recalibrate. They can't rely on your pattern, so they treat you with uncertainty. Uncertainty is respect's foundation. When someone doesn't know if you'll accept their behavior, they modify that behavior preemptively. Your unpredictability becomes their boundary. They enforce it on themselves because they fear the unknown consequence. Most people pride themselves on consistency. They think it builds trust. And it does. Trust that you're controllable. Real power isn't found in being reliable. It's found in being selectively reliable. Predictable when it serves you. Unpredictable when being read would cost you. This requires emotional control most don't possess. They're slaves to their reactions. Someone insults them, they must respond. Someone flatters them, they must reciprocate. These automatic responses are chains. Break them, and you break free. But unpredictability alone isn't the weapon. There's something deeper that controls everything. 6. Emotions are the primary tool of control. Every advertisement you see, every political speech you hear, every argument you've lost, they all have one thing in common: emotional manipulation. Because logic is slow, emotion is instant. Logic requires thought. Emotion bypasses it entirely. Hit someone's fear and they'll comply. Trigger their anger and they'll react without thinking. Activate their guilt and they'll give what you want. This is why master manipulators never argue facts. They target feelings. They know your emotions are handles they can pull to make you move exactly where they want you. And if you're still operating on emotion, you're still being operated. The person who controls their emotions controls the interaction. Watch a skilled negotiator. You rage, they stay calm. You plead, they remain unmoved. You celebrate, they show nothing. Your emotional display gives them information. Your excitement reveals what you value. Your anger shows what threatens you. Your fear indicates your breaking point. Meanwhile, they reveal nothing. This asymmetry is dominance. They're collecting data while offering none. They're making calculated decisions while you're having chemical reactions. By the time you realize you've been played, the deal is done. Your signature is dry. Your emotion was the weapon used against you. I've made this mistake. Someone questioned my competence publicly. I felt anger rise, defended myself immediately, explained, justified, proved them wrong with facts and passion. And you know what happened? I looked weak because I reacted. I showed that their words had power over me. They pulled a string and I danced. Later, I learned, when someone attacks, you pause, you smile slightly, you respond with a question that makes them explain themselves, or you don't respond at all. The absence of expected emotion unnerves people. They don't know what to do with someone who won't react. Your calm becomes their confusion. Their confusion becomes your advantage. Think about how fear controls populations. A government mentions a threat. People surrender freedoms for security. A company hints at scarcity. Customers rush to buy. A partner implies they might leave. The other person starts performing. None of this requires real danger, just the emotional activation of fear. The same principle applies to guilt, shame, pride, love. These are buttons that, once identified, can be pressed repeatedly. Most people don't even realize they're being played. They think they're making decisions. They're having emotional reactions that were strategically triggered. The puppet never sees the strings. When you master your emotions, you become unmanipulatable. People try their usual tactics, and they fail. They can't make you angry enough to act foolishly. Can't make you guilty enough to comply. Can't make you afraid enough to submit. This forces them to deal with you logically, and logic favors preparation. You've already thought through scenarios, planned responses, identified outcomes. They're used to winning through emotional warfare, but you've left that battlefield entirely. You operate from a place they can't reach, cold, calculated, untouchable. But there's something emotion blinds people to even more completely. 7. People follow competence, not morality. You can be the most ethical person alive, and no one will follow you if you're incompetent. But demonstrate competence, and people will follow you regardless of your morality. This is uncomfortable truth. History's most effective leaders weren't its most moral. They were its most competent. They delivered results, solved problems, made things happen. People didn't care about their private ethics. They cared that under their leadership, things worked. Competence creates followership. Morality creates judgment. Guess which one builds power? Guess which one moves mountains? Look at who actually rises in organizations. Not the kindest, the most effective, the person who closes deals, who fixes what's broken, who gets things done. They might be ruthless, they might cut corners, they might step on toes, but they deliver. And delivery creates loyalty faster than any moral positioning ever will. Because humans are practical animals. They follow whoever increases their survival odds. A moral leader who can't feed the tribe gets replaced by an immoral one who can. This isn't cynicism. It's observation. Competence is currency. Morality is preference. And when survival is on the line, preference gets sacrificed first. I watched this play out in a company restructure. 2 managers. One was beloved, fair, considerate. His team was comfortable but underperforming. The other was feared, demanding, cold. His team hit every metric. When cuts came, the moral manager got demoted. His competence couldn't compete. The ruthless one got promoted. His results spoke louder than any complaint. People grumbled, then they adapted. Then they competed for positions on his team because that's where careers advanced. Morality didn't protect the kind one. Competence elevated the effective one. That's the game. That's always been the game. Think about who you actually respect. Strip away what you think you should feel. Look at who you'd choose in a crisis. The person with good intentions, or the person with a track record of solving problems. When your survival is threatened, you don't pick the moral choice. You pick the effective one. This is why competence dominates. It transcends politics. It transcends personality. Results are objective. They either happened or they didn't. You either delivered or you didn't. All the moral posturing in the world can't argue with outcome. And people remember outcome long after they forget how you made them feel. When you focus on becoming undeniably competent, moral judgments become irrelevant. People might not like you. They might question your methods. But they can't deny your effectiveness. And effectiveness creates its own legitimacy. The bridge that stands doesn't care if the engineer was pleasant. The surgery that saves a life doesn't care if the doctor was warm. Competence is its own morality. It's the only ethics that survives contact with reality. Master your craft to a level where your results can't be disputed, and watch how quickly moral objections disappear. But even competence fails without one critical element. 8. Revealing everything makes you weak. Transparency is a weapon used against you. Every time you explain yourself, you give information that can be used to undermine you. Every time you justify your decisions, you signal that those decisions are negotiable. Every time you share your full strategy, you hand others the map to defeat you. The need to be understood is a vulnerability. Smart players keep their reasoning private. They act, they decide, they move, and they let others guess why. Mystery creates respect. Explanation creates targets. When people don't know your full position, they can't exploit it. The person who shares everything thinks they're building trust. They're building dependency on approval. They need others to validate their choices, so they expose their thinking process. This is strategic suicide. Your reasoning is your intellectual property. Your motivations are your competitive advantage. The moment you reveal them, you've armed your opposition. They know what you value, what you fear, what would make you change course. I've seen deals collapse because someone explained too much, revealed their desperation, showed their timeline, exposed their pressure points. The other side adjusted accordingly, extracted more, paid less, won. Think about power figures, they don't explain, they announce, they don't justify, they implement. Ask them why, and you get vague philosophy or simple statement. It needed to be done. It made sense. I decided. No elaboration, no vulnerability. They understand that every word is potential ammunition, so they speak economically, share minimally, reveal only what advances their position. This isn't secrecy. It's operational security. The general who shares his battle plan with everyone doesn't win wars. The one who shares it with no one gets betrayed. The one who shares it selectively with only those who need to know conquers. Your private life should be fortress. Your thoughts should be vaulted. Your plans should be compartmentalized. Different people should know different pieces, never the whole. This prevents conspiracy, prevents prediction, prevents the kind of total knowledge that enables total defeat. When someone asks why you made a choice, because I chose to, is complete answer. You don't owe explanation. Explanation is gift, and gifts should be rare, deliberate, strategic. Most hand them out freely, then wonder why they're constantly undermined. They've shown everyone exactly how to hurt them. The moment you start treating your inner world as classified information, your power multiplies. People can't manipulate what they don't understand, can't predict what they can't see, can't undermine what they don't know. You become opaque, unreadable, and unreadable is untouchable. They'll test you, push for explanation, frame it as trust. If you trusted me, you'd tell me. That's manipulation. Real trust doesn't require total transparency. It requires demonstrated reliability. Give them outcomes, not blueprints. Show results, not reasoning. Let your actions speak and your motives remain shadow. But silence alone isn't enough. There's one more principle that turns scarcity into gravity. 9. Scarcity creates value. Flood the market with yourself, and you become worthless. Be everywhere, available always, responsive instantly. And watch how quickly people stop valuing your time. Scarcity is the only thing that makes abundance valuable. Gold is precious because it's rare. Diamonds cost fortunes because they're limited. Your attention, your presence, your expertise, they follow the same economics. Make them scarce and demand rises. Make them abundant and you're taken for granted. This isn't manipulation. It's basic human psychology. We want what we can't easily have. We chase what withdraws. We value what costs us effort to obtain. Watch how this plays in relationships. The person who's always available becomes background noise. The one who's selective becomes priority. Return every text immediately and you're needy. Take time to respond and you're busy with important things. It sounds petty. It is petty, but it works because human psychology is primitive. We assign worth based on scarcity. The friend who cancels plans occasionally remains interesting. The one who never says no becomes obligation. Not because of actual value difference, because scarcity creates perceived value. And perception drives behavior. When you're rare, people compete for access. When you're common, they take you for granted. I learned this the expensive way. Made myself constantly available to everyone. Answered every call. Attended every meeting. Said yes to every request. My calendar filled. My influence shrank. People stopped preparing for meetings with me because they knew they could reschedule easily. They stopped valuing my input because they could get it anytime. I was abundant. I was worthless. Then I changed, started saying no, created barriers to my time, required advanced scheduling, stopped being instantly responsive. Suddenly, meetings with me became valuable. People prepared, they respected the time, they implemented suggestions because getting another session wasn't guaranteed. Same person, different scarcity, different value. Think about experts you respect. Are they readily available, or do they have waiting lists, limited availability, high barriers to access? The doctor who sees anyone anytime isn't the one people trust with serious conditions. The consultant who's always free isn't the one companies pay premium rates. Scarcity signals quality. It suggests demand. It implies that others have already validated this person's worth by competing for their time. When you make yourself scarce, you trigger this psychological cascade. People assume you must be valuable because you're not accessible. That assumption creates reality. They treat you as valuable. That treatment generates actual value. Most people fear scarcity because they're desperate for approval. They think constant availability proves their worth. It proves the opposite. It screams that you need them more than they need you. Real value doesn't chase, It attracts, it sets terms, it creates boundaries and watches others adjust to accommodate them. When you embrace strategic scarcity, you stop being consumed by others' agendas and start architecting your own position. Your time becomes premium. Your attention becomes privilege. Your presence becomes event. But scarcity without strategy is just absence. You need one final element to convert waiting into winning. 10. Strategic patience defeats impulsive action. Everyone wants immediate results, instant gratification, quick wins. This desperation is their weakness. Because power isn't built in moments, it's built in movements. Strategic patience means watching fools rush in while you position yourself for inevitable victory. It means letting others exhaust themselves fighting today's battle while you're securing tomorrow's high ground. Impulsive action feels productive. Strategic patience looks like inaction. But when the moment arrives, the patient player moves once and wins completely. The impulsive player moves constantly and gains nothing. Time is a weapon most people don't know how to use. The impatient reveal themselves constantly. They can't sit with discomfort, can't tolerate uncertainty, must act now, decide now, resolve now. This need for immediate resolution makes them predictable, exploitable. You know they'll take the first acceptable offer because waiting is torture. You know they'll react to provocation because silence feels like weakness. You know they'll fold under pressure because endurance isn't their strength. Meanwhile, the patient player waits, watches, gathers information, lets tension build, allows pressure to work on others while remaining unmoved themselves. When they finally act, it's decisive, complete, irreversible. I've sat in negotiations where the other side was visibly uncomfortable with silence. They'd make their offer. I'd wait, just sit there. They couldn't handle it. Started talking, explaining, justifying, eventually offering concessions I never requested just to fill the void. Their discomfort with patience cost them thousands. I did nothing but wait. Patience was the pressure. Their impulsivity was the crack. This dynamic repeats everywhere. The person who can tolerate discomfort longer controls the outcome. Not because they're stronger, because they understand that time pressure affects the impatient far more than the patient. Every second of silence costs them psychologically, costs you nothing. Think about power consolidation throughout history. Revolutions fail because they're impatient. They want change now. They expose themselves early. They fight before they're ready. The successful overthrowers wait. They build in shadow. They gather strength quietly. They position pieces methodically. And when they move, it's overwhelming. The impatient player shows their hand too soon. The patient player doesn't show their hand until the game is already over. This isn't cowardice. It's understanding that timing is everything. The right action at the wrong time fails. The adequate action at the perfect time succeeds. Patience isn't passive. It's active preparation disguised as stillness. When you develop strategic patience, you stop reacting to every provocation. Stop chasing every opportunity. Stop deciding before you must. You let situations develop. Let information emerge. Let others commit themselves before you reveal your position. This creates asymmetry. They're locked in. You're still flexible. They've spent their energy. You've preserved yours. And when your moment arrives, when all variables align, you execute with a force that seems to come from nowhere. But it didn't come from nowhere. It came from patience that looked like nothing while building everything. The impatient have already moved. The patient are about to win. You now possess what 96% will never understand. Not because they can't, because they won't. They'll cling to the comfortable lie that goodness wins, that fairness protects them, that the world operates on merit. Let them. Their delusion is your advantage. Their predictability is your leverage. While they chase approval, you'll be securing position. While they explain themselves, you'll be acting. While they react emotionally, you'll be calculating 3 moves ahead. This knowledge doesn't make you evil. It makes you operational in a world that's been operational against you since birth. But understanding these principles means nothing without one thing: separation from the herd. Right now, go watch the previous video. Networking is submission disguised as strategy. Machiavelli. Most people think networking builds power. It doesn't. It builds dependency. That video destroys the illusion that connection equals strength. You need to see it. Not because I'm asking, because operating with half the picture leaves you vulnerable. The mechanics of isolation are as critical as the mechanics of perception. Watch it. Now, then come back here and write in the comments, "I see the machine now." Not because it matters to me, because declaring it locks it into your consciousness, makes retreat harder, turns observation into commitment. The game was always being played. You're just finally learning the rules.